to the Kindness and Gratitude Speaker Spotlight Series. I'm one of your hosts, Blanca, with the Laws of Life. And of course, our esteemed co host is Tony Kaufman, the founder and creator of the Kindness and Gratitude Summit. Welcome, Tony. Always an honor to be with you. And we also have our guest today, Mr. Carl Richards, podcasting extraordinaire with podcast solutions made simple. How are you today, Carl?
Oh, Blanca, I'm fantastic. Tony, good to see you again. I totally love what you're doing with this event. I am super stoked to see this all come to fruition.
It's a work in progress, and you know what? Every time we do it, it gets better and better. And thank you for being one of our esteemed speakers this time. I've been waiting for you, kiddo.
I'm here. I'm here. Ask your questions. I'm ready. Let's go.
So, Mr. Richards, what is your speech going to be about? Give us a little glimpse.
Yeah, I'm going to be covering the 5 myths why people aren't launching podcasts. The talk itself is called "Get Podcasts Ready: 5 Myths Holding You Back from Success," and I take this from firstly my years of experience in radio broadcasting, which is the background that I'll be talking about. But on top of that, there's really 5 reasons that I've come up with, which is why people don't launch podcasts. And hint, hint, it's the same 5 reasons a lot of people didn't launch websites back 15, 20 years ago. And we know what happens when we don't have a presence in the digital world. So that's what I'm going to be focused on is that. And also the 3 Ps, which actually is going to make it easier for you to go from no podcast or I have a rough idea to actually podcast launched in 60 days.
That's incredible. So, just give us a little sneak peek. What is the number one block or excuse that people use to not podcast?
Honestly, I think the number one reason that people aren't launching is the number one reason I would say is their misconceptions about what a podcast should be about and also what it takes to put it together. So there are some moving parts to it, but you don't have to be a technical wizard. You don't have to create any new content. You don't have to go to your content factory and say, okay, I'm going to create a lot of new content now. You also don't need to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can if you want to, but you don't have to do that to have a podcast. You also don't need to have a podcast that is 2 hours long. You don't even need it to be an hour long. So those are I know that's more than just one I gave you, but that's sort of the encompassing reason is there's a lot of misconceptions as to, and almost in the ether of not sure what this is about. And I don't really have the technical know-how or the prowess. I'm just going to leave it alone. What I'm doing is working fine for me right now. Is it? And that's what we'll be talking about on the talk for sure.
No, it's podcasting is such a wonderful way to become established as an expert in your niche and to become well known to people and to build your audience. And the advantages really are. So I think this is one of our most important talks in the podcasting area. I hope everybody goes to weekofkindness.com and chooses Carl's talk, registers for his talk, because this is an important conversation and everybody needs their own show and everybody needs to connect. And Tony, how did you connect with Carl? How did that happen?
Oh gosh, probably through so many of our mutual friends and advanced speakers, Playhouse, Jessica Koch, Connie Whitman. Everybody. I've been blessed to get people to refer me to their friends, family, and their community and tribe. And a lot of what we do is also being a guest on podcasts and shows and Facebook lives and all of these wonderful summits and gift giveaways. As a matter of fact, Carl, I one of my main hesitations for starting a podcast was I don't know if I've got the time for it. And then that was answered basically by recording 4 episodes 1 day a month for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That was it. That was my time commitment. It was I decided on a 30-minute talk, 30-minute podcast, which is probably even too long. I'm hearing that 15 is a good number.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a huge popularity towards shorter episodes. It all
Yeah.
depends on what, how clients want to digest your content, right? So 30 minutes is actually a really good sweet spot, and in the podcast universe, that's probably around average. But there's a growing popularity with micro podcasts. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
one of the clients who I service on a regular basis, they have a podcast within a podcast. So they have a longer podcast, which is usually about 30 to 45 minutes, and in the middle of that is a 2-minute podcast from one of their clients. So it's
Oh,
amazing how
shoot.
those components, yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
but can you imagine if your podcast was only 2 to 5 minutes? How
Oh, I
many
would
could you
love
record in two to
that.
five minutes, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as we remove all those barriers and those, what we perceived or what we think a podcast is, and we go, okay, I don't have to have an hour-long podcast. It can be 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, or as Blanca said, 15 minutes even. Once we know that, then all of a sudden the content creation, as you mentioned, Tony, becomes a little easier because you can crank out, if you're content ready, of course. That's another discussion altogether. But if you're content ready, you can do that in a couple of hours, once a month, and you're good to go.
Well, in my case, I decided on one theme, and that,
Yeah.
when I first started, was the world-class mentors. And because I always felt like in your hero's journey, after you decide on the red pill and the blue pill, now you got to go find a mentor, right? Obi-Wan,
Right.
right? Okay. So I just gave you two great movies there. All right.
Mhm.
So I found my mentors that I started with, and then during that journey, I found other mentors and other people who were worthy of being mentors. And so what I mean, that was just kind of easy because I would just invite people to come talk to me about who their mentors were, and it just kind of fell into place really easy. So that wasn't bad. And so, I mean, there's easy ways to do podcast content. Blanca, you're the queen here, so please fit in.
well, I love working, I love collaborating, and I think that sharing your message with the world and interviewing people every week is a
Mhm.
wonderful way. And I think when you shine a light on others, it benefits everyone. And that's the beauty of podcasting or webcasting. And it's definitely a way, one of my laws of creating your vision is to have a show. You must have a show. It's a requirement. It's like, how do you bake a cake without flour? You can't bake a business without a show. Gotta have a show. To me, it's in
Yeah.
today's digital age a requirement. Now, Carl, I understand you're giving away a free gift. What is it?
That's right. I'm going to be giving people the opportunity to tap into my knowledge, a 1 hour podcast strategy session, and part of that strategy session will be saying, okay, well, what is it you think your show will be about, and where do you want to take this? And the goal after that 1 hour session is to either say, hey, great, it's thanks so much for chatting with me for an hour, but the bigger goal, of course, is to see how many people that we can launch a podcast with from this summit, because I know that there's a lot of people who are probably thinking about it, sitting on the edge, and we want to be able to give that opportunity to get them podcast ready and then move them through the launch strategy phase.
Carl, you're such an answer to our prayers. That's exactly why we created the category called podcast production.
Yeah,
Because so many speakers are, you're right, teeter-tottering on, do I have the time? Do I have the money? How much will it take? How many
yeah.
hours? All that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And you're right here to answer all our questions. So
And there are professional speakers who speak on stages all the time. Here's what's unfortunate. There are a lot that still don't have a podcast, and we're in a digital age now. I don't want to say it was because of COVID, but we are in a digital age, and that's just one more speaking opportunity to be really in contact with your audience every single week. Or if you're doing microcasting, maybe even several times a week. Who wouldn't want to be on a stage several times a week? So
I
I'm
love it.
looking forward to sharing this. Yeah, absolutely.
It's gold, guys. It really is gold. So if you've ever thought, I mean, everybody has an expertise in something, whether it's parenting or whether it's building an H mom. I don't know. Whatever your expertise is, everybody can talk about something that you're an expert at.
We're
So
going to help you build an explosive podcast. How about that?
there you go.
Wow, I love it. All right, well, there you have it, everyone. Be sure to register for Carl Richards. Be sure to register for his speech, and then you can take advantage of his amazing free gift, a 1 hour strategy session. You're going to go to weekofkindness.com, and this is going to be an amazing summit with over 108 speakers, 45,000 in free prizes. So let's cheer Carl on. Let's register. Let's get as many attendees as possible. And let's make this the most successful Kindness and Gratitude Summit yet. Carl, can't wait to see your speech, and thanks for all you do to support the community.
Thanks, everyone.
Love you.